Guys, it's finally time to talk about Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. You only get these type of fights every so often, one with them both being pretty close in their prime, both having insane plot armor that even if you can find holes in their game to break down, they just tend to keep on winning. Look, this summer's main events have been working out great for us so far. Me and my Georgian brothers went out there and dominated. My king, Salty Max Holloway, and Dustin had a pretty good scrap on a pretty mid card, but I have a feeling that something's going to be changing pretty soon. Guys, I like DDP, okay? I know that I've picked against him before. I'm not going to say which Strickland fight I picked him to lose. It was the rematch. But for a while now, I was on the train of thinking if DDP can just survive the first round ultimate from Khamzat, he's going to slowly start to progress and take over as the fight goes on. But after I put more thought into it and rewatching their previous fights, it's clear to me that it's not going to be that simple. Obviously with DDP, he's not a guy that you can just look at the fight optics or you'd always be picking against him. It's like almost a Marab type of thing too, where you can say, oh, his striking's sloppy, you know, maybe Umar can piece him up, but like when do you see that happen though, you know? Like, say what you want about Dricus not looking very technical, but when do you see him actually lose? He always finds a way to get some anime-level mid-fight buff and come back and win. Plus, this isn't even that accurate anymore because in his last fight, Strickland was somehow able to make a Dricus fight boring by just getting outpointed and not giving much openings. Dricus has insane heart, strength, definitely has proven why he's the current champ right now, and definitely has a good chance of winning. The only problem with this whole thing is, there's only been 2 fights where we can look at and start seeing some flaws, I guess, in Khamzat's game, you can say. The first one with Burns was just a straight-up scrap, which people do point to Khamzat not being the slickest striker, but I think it's overplayed because this was the first time he ever had to deal with adversity, but he still clearly won 2 rounds. But yeah, he did get dropped after going against Burns. The Usman fight was a lot different though. This one, we realized Khamzat clearly just isn't the same destroyer he is in round 1. But that round 1 is just insane. You know, 10-8 round in the first, which Usman had to riskily slam himself into the canvas trying to get Khamzat off his back to create a scramble. The next 2 rounds were a lot closer, with Khamzat just not really being able to hold Usman down for very long, but the striking being pretty even. Some said this should have been a draw. I just think it was a close fight that probably leans Khamzat. His last fight, though. The Robert Whittaker fight breakdowns, they were almost similar to the Dricus ones in terms of the, you know, if he can survive the first round, he can do better at the end. But obviously, Dricus is being looked at with having a way better chance than Whittaker did. And yeah, we all saw how that went. But look, I'm not just going to sit here and glaze Khamzat. I'm not the type of guy to just get completely gaslit by some edits, which I'm not gonna lie, they definitely haven't been helping me with my breakdown lately, these Khamzat edits, but like I definitely see this fight being pretty close. But when you have 2 guys like this that don't really get finished and are both tough, both championship level, you have to just look at where they match up on a stylistic breakdown, like skill for skill, you know, who's gonna come out. Obviously, Khamzat just has such a grappling advantage. It actually kind of concerns me. I think people, including myself, can kind of gaslight everyone into thinking Dricus is a better grappler than he is. I mean, to be fair, he has improved a lot since the Derek Brunson days and does possess championship level. But my problem is he does tend to get taken down by grappling-based fighters. I think Khamzat will have enough of an advantage to definitely control him for periods at a time. And he isn't one for just controlling without damage, it's quite the opposite. But is DDP's striking, power, and cardio advantage enough to even the score and sway it in his favor? The more I think about the fight, the less I think that this will be the case. When you look back on Dricus' fights, he does tend to look tired after grappling heavy starts. Or even in the Izzy fight where Dricus was mixing in the grappling, trying to sub or control him, you can definitely tell he was starting to fatigue in that 4th round, in that end of the 3rd round. Way more than he ever does when he's fighting like Sean Strickland. Khamzat's grappling is just so much better than anyone he's fought. And I think DDP is going to feel that toll from having to survive and get back to his feet early on. I mean, look, even Khamzat hasn't looked too great himself as the fight starts to go on later, But the thing is, both of these guys have that ability to keep going and win, push themselves when they're tired. So when I make a pick on this, I have to base it off of where the advantages and disadvantages lie. And for that, I'm going to have to go with Khamzat to win the fight. I think a really good pick here is actually Khamzat by decision, because both of these guys are in their prime, tough. I don't think Dricus is gonna get finished. I don't think Khamzat's gonna get finished. Maybe late round, I guess. If you want to bet like over 2.5, over 3.5 rounds, that's good. But I can see this going to the scorecards with Khamzat edging out the decision with early pressure, control, and honestly not even getting that beat with the striking later. I think it'll still be really competitive later. So yeah, I am rooting for Dricus though, because I like both of them. But Khamzat is just so inactive and has a history of pullouts. I think Dricus is just the better champion to have right now. And it would be pretty awesome to see him keep proving us wrong and become the middleweight GOAT, which, if he were to win, we'd have to start having some actual serious conversations about that. I like to put a lot of work into the main event of these fights, but this card is actually really good, so I'll break down the others. Going down the main card, I think Lerone Murphy is going to brutally, horribly 29-28 decision Aaron Pico here. Look, I am done getting gaslit by any of these guys from other organizations again. The level that these guys that are ranked in the UFC facing the best of the best compared to these dudes on Bellator highlight reels, I literally switched my pick from Mario Batista to Patchy Mix because I watched his highlights and heard people talking about him like crazy, only to look like he literally went from the cardio kickboxing class at his gym to sparring with the MMA guys in terms of how he looked from the Bellator fight to Mario Batista. I'd honestly love to be proven wrong here, and Aaron Pico just goes out and starches Lerone Murphy. I don't really like the 34-year-old prospect that much, but I'm not going to pretend that that is a reasonable prediction to make in the Big 25. Up next, we got two guys whose souls were taken by Ian Garry via close decision. Carlos Prates is a bit of a aura merchant, yes, but don't act like we all didn't think he was on some prime Vaughn timing last year, bro. He was sliming out everybody he fought, but then he had the misfortune of getting his aura taken by Ian Garry himself. I still believe in the KO power of this guy. I think Ian is a high-level striker and was able to perfectly negate his striking last fight with the high kicks on the arms, long shots, and takedown timing, which Carlos actually did look pretty good with his defensive wrestling and even ended up on top, and all it took was 2 clean ground and pound shots for him to have Ian moving around on all fours. Crazy work. I do rate Geoff Neal a lot higher than any of the guys Prates has been clip farming on, but I do think he will be able to pull off a late round TKO and even KO. Moving on to Cannonier versus MVP. MVP presents such a different problem for these guys to face. Like, he just stays so light on his feet and waits for you to get comfortable or confused, and then boom, he just jumps in with an overhand right or a flying knee and gets the bigger moments of the round. Someone like Cannonier, who is a well-rounded fighter but doesn't go out and just impose his will like some of these other guys, I can see having trouble with that, but I also do think he will be a lot stronger in the clinch grappling and if he chooses to take it there. The problem is just how does he get there? Ian Garry found a way. I swear I don't actually really like this guy, but he is relevant to a few of these fighters on this card. Got some good takedowns on MVP and decided to backpack his way to a close decision. For as good of a striker as he was still stifled on how to approach someone like MVP. Gonna have to go with another clip farmer on this pick. I think MVP will hurt Cannonier. I'm not gonna say a KO. Jared has proven to be super tough as of late, but it could end up being a little more boring than some expect, with MVP just winning a couple rounds just from having the bigger moments, but not actually doing much engaging. I'm gonna have to go with him. We move on to Kai Asakura versus Tim Elliott. Don't overthink this, bro. Just go with the early finish plays. I don't even care. I know I'm being contradictory about aura merchants and stuff from other organizations, but bro, this guy Kai is gonna knock out Unk pretty early. I don't understand how Tim is still ranked. Anyways, those are gonna be my picks here today, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Just please don't hurt my feelings. If you enjoyed this style of MMA content, please subscribe to encourage me to actually make another video within a month this time. And yeah.